more money to come.
This is the most exciting part of our day, right?
Absolutely.
So we do Money Mondays every Monday, 3:30 Central Standard.
Absolutely.
Right?
We talk about all sorts of topics, and we're doing 15, 20-minute presentation, 10 minutes Q&A.
Yeah.
And, we sit here and we share what we know. We make fun of Ben's bald head. We do a little bit of everything, right? But what are we talking about today, Ben?
We're talking about negotiating tips for multifamily real estate, right?
Absolutely.
Now, ultimately, like we always kind of go down the multifamily route because we're multifamily guys, but a lot of this stuff is good for pretty much any commercial real estate, right? So the tips are going to be, somewhat broad, and I think you can use them in a lot of different negotiating stuff. So we're going to hop right into it because this is the meat of the show.
Yeah, and I would say we're going to talk about negotiating and kind of what things you can also include the PSA.
Yeah,
right? Let's maybe broaden it up a little bit.
Well, or the LOI, right?
LOI, yes.
And let's also talk about kind of positioning, right? Because I think in a lot of ways, you've got to negotiate from a power position, right? You have to understand what is going to speak to a potential seller, what's going to speak to a potential broker. And, we'll kind of give some folks that are starting off, maybe some of the tips that we've kind of gone through, right? And you either learn the hard way or you're probably going to get bounced out of the business, right? So this is born from us putting in hundreds of offers, literally hundreds of offers. So, we're going to start from the top, right? Ultimately, every negotiation starts from what is the other party trying to obviously get, right? You have to understand their needs and what their wants are and ultimately what they're trying to get out of the negotiation, right? In a lot of ways, it always boils down to price, right? But that's probably 90% of the transactions. The other 10%, you might have some other thing that, that they want a quick close or they want more skin in the game, so you got to give them earnest money, or they want that earnest money to be non-refundable from day one. Right?
As a seller, right? Like Ben said, it's not just about price. A lot of times they just don't want to waste their time. Nobody wants to feel like they're wasting their time.
That's the biggest
That's
one,
where
right?
that other 10% comes in, right? So you do things to show that you're not going to waste their time, like put up more earnest money, like reduce your DD time, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So
you've got to understand what those pain points are, and sometimes the broker. Which, folks, we say broker, but in commercial real estate, that's what everybody's called. They're all real estate agents at the end of the day. So they take the same test as residential real estate agents do. But we're going to call it a broker. The broker will usually tell you, hey, for these guys, they're trying to roll into another deal. They need to close this thing in 60 days. So if you can't close in 60 days, I don't think it's going to work, right? Or they're not going to choose you. So I think in a lot of ways you need to start from building that relationship with the broker. Well, where they will be candid with you. They'll tell you how to win the deal, right? They're going to come back to you and say, these guys and gals, all they care about is price. Mm-hmm. You get them the highest price, they'll agree to your terms, right? And a lot of, like I said, 90% of the time it really does boil down to price. But bigger guys and gals, bigger firms, are going to look for certain things like certainty of close or something else too, right? As they kind of get a little bit more sophisticated, right? But you got to negotiate from a win-win perspective, right? That's the most important thing. And it can't be us against them and we're trying to beat them into the ground, right?
And that's exactly it. Negotiating is not about you winning, the other person losing,
mm-hmm.
right? It's really not about that. It's how do you structure something that is a win-win where everybody can get the benefits of what they're looking for, right? Everybody can walk away happy. Negotiating is not about one person walking away depressed and the other one happy, right?
No, but a lot of people think that is.
They really do. It's not about the hard negotiation. It's about finding win-win. It's you give up something that's not really that important to you, but you're getting something that is important for you, and vice versa, right? The other person is giving up something that's really not that important for them, but they're getting something that is important for them.
And
right?
I'll tell you guys an example of when this blows up, right? There's been people we don't do this, but there's other brokers, right, where the guy or gal is negotiating the heck out of every little point. Guess who's going to get frustrated in that, right? Everybody along the transaction, including the broker, including the only person that's probably not going to be upset about it because they're just racking up fees is the lawyers, right? But if you redline the heck out of the PSA and it takes 3 months to negotiate that thing because you want to negotiate every little fine point in that PSA, somebody's eventually going to walk, right? Because until you have ink on that PSA, which is purchase and sale agreement, right, nothing's binding. Right? You could have this LOI, you could have already spent money on lawyers, maybe even done some due diligence up front. Guess what? Until you have ink on that purchase and sale agreement, that seller does not have to sell to you.
Agreed. And remember, it's about not wasting people's time.
Yeah, right? It's not.
Negotiating every little, and I tell people, I see that all the time. People want to list out 50 different things that they want to negotiate. And it's just like, come on, you're going to waste everyone's time. It's not going to be fun. You're going to burn lawyer fees. It's really pick your 5 things that you care about and just run with those. Make those push for that.
Absolutely, right? And so let's make a distinction between you're making an offer, right? And then you're also negotiating the PSA, right? So we've mentioned this guy maybe even as early as last week, right? Where the LOI is, once again, it's a non-binding document. It should not be more than a page, maybe 2 pages tops, right? Where you're listing the most important business parts of the transaction that are important for you, that you want the seller to understand, right? And that would hopefully be the basis of your purchase and sale agreement, right? So if you don't have that, right, or you're beating it to death and you're including every little nuance that you want to have in the PSA, somebody's just going to ultimately just not going to choose you.
Absolutely, right. And show from example, right? Say like, look, here's what we did before, here's what worked, here's what didn't work. And, sometimes it's about just showing people that you're giving real thought to it. You're not just negotiating every stupid point, right? Because again, I see that. I'm like, people negotiate everything, and I'm like, you're going to piss somebody off and not get anything
and
out of it.
This is coming from the guy that likes to negotiate everything. Trust me,
I negotiate the important, but this is the thing. I negotiate the really important things.
But you still like to negotiate,
I
right?
like to negotiate. Well, no, it's not that I like to negotiate. I come from a position of everything is possible if you go down it the right way or approach it the right way.
Yeah.
And so, I don't assume that the answer is no, right? It's about, hey, well, maybe there's yes if we can give him this. Right, maybe I can get Ben to buy me a coffee if I buy him lunch. Right, I don't know. I'm just making up. Right, you don't know, and so that was my example. All right, but it's things like that, right, and being aware of that, and and sometimes maybe speaking of PSAs, right, sometimes you want to add a point where the lawyers are kind of shielding it from the seller or the buyer, right, depending on what position you are. And so sometimes you may need to actually get everybody on board because that lawyer is trying to fit their box, but maybe you need to. There's some more. More understanding needed. So now you need to get the seller involved, right? Because sometimes the lawyers won't even share.
So rigid, folks. And actually, that's a great point that I want to bring up.
I got plenty of great points.
We know you do. Here, I'll pat you on the back there. All right. So we've gotten to a point where you've gotten to a stalemate, right? And then the lawyers will either sometimes they'll just run it into the ground because they're just racking up legal fees, or they're only looking at it from a legalese type standpoint. And then at that point, you need to step in and say, okay, let's get the seller on the line, let's get the buyer on the line, and let's just hash this out. At the end of the day, we're all business people, right? They want to get the deal done, we want to get the deal done. How do we make it work? And you're sitting there negotiating it on the fly with them right then and there. And we've done that on plenty of deals, right? Because there's just sometimes where you're just getting jammed up, and that might even be post execution of the PSA as well, folks. You need to understand that, right? There could be something that pops up that you then have to negotiate, right? If you leave it up to your lawyer, sometimes they're going to take a very rigid stance, as they should, because they're your lawyer. But at the end of the day, we're all business people. We need to understand how this stuff works. And sometimes you get them on the phone, 15 minutes can save you 5 hours in legal fees, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So you want to kind of negotiate from a position of understanding of what the deal is, what the submarket is, and what what is the seller trying to get out of the transaction, right? Because it goes back to negotiating with data, right? And understanding all the different points of this deal, right? There might be, examples of things that, if you put something in, they're like, is this guy even looking at the deal? Do they understand what's going on, or what the triggers are for the person, or what they're trying to get out of the transaction? So you need to negotiate with some data, right? You need to understand it. You need to have done your due diligence. And the brokers will see that too, right? Somebody will ask stupid questions that are on the OM, or push for things that maybe the broker's already told them about and they're just either neglecting or they've forgotten about. That's just going to piss people off, right? So obviously understand what's happening in the transaction, what's happening with the deal, and what's happening in the submarket, and use that to your advantage, right? We kind of touched on this a little bit, right? People kind of get caught up on the price, and 90% of the time it is about price, just to be honest with you. But we've also won deal on terms too, right? Where we're right neck and neck with the other guys and gals, right? But our DD's shorter, our closing period's shorter. We'll put up more earnest money, right? Because I'm going to tell you why we're willing to do that, right? The risk is now on me and Ferris, right? If I increase my price, now I'm passing along some of that risk to our investors, right? Because the returns are going to be smaller, right? So we'll draw a line in the sand when it comes to price, but in terms, let's get creative, right? And that's what goes back to Ferris's point, right? Getting creative is sometimes the best way you can approach these things, because you just never know what's going to make somebody tick, right?
Yeah.
So beefing up those terms can sometimes get you across the finish line.
And sometimes asking the broker, what does the seller usually look for, actually is a good way to do it too. I almost always do that. where you just ask them, hey, the brokers will tell you, well, this guy really cares about price, or this guy just cares about certainty. It's not about the quick buck. And so use your resources. Really, it's the broker, your attorneys. Those are the main two people that can maybe give some direction, because the attorney could also tell you, hey, we never see anybody trying to negotiate Starbucks at closing. Like, that's not a thing, right? Or maybe they say they always negotiate that, right? So, the attorney and the broker are the two probably biggest people that can kind of give that direction.
Yeah,
in terms of what things are maybe up for negotiation, can be negotiated, and what things might not be.
Yeah, and obviously this year is kind of new. There's some new clauses that are in there too, right? But sometimes you got to say, is this worth blowing up the deal about, right? And so although you want to include some terms that might make you stand above the rest of the pack, right? Don't make it to you can also go the other way with it, right? Where you have too many things going on and you're going to scare somebody off, right? Yep. So, to my buddy's point here, right, earlier, that everything, and for the most part, is negotiable. And I would have to agree with Ferris, right? Yeah. He's taught me one thing, that it doesn't hurt to ask, right? And, whereas a lot of people kind of come with their own kind of preconceived notions.
Yeah, don't come with preconceived notions, right?
Yeah,
let the other people tell you yay, nay, right? Now, don't be annoying. Don't negotiate stupid things, right? But have a real ask, and, but give a reason behind it. That's the thing. It's not about, negotiating is not about just asking for every little tit for tat. It's not that, right? It's here's what I need, and here's how I can get you there. You want me to pay $1 million a door? That's fine, I can do that, but I need you to 99% you to owner finance me. Ben gets his $1 million a door, I get my deal. I mean, it's a win-win.
Maybe.
But really, I mean, again, anything can be possible. Yeah. And I say this across the board, regardless if you're talking about negotiating this, it's just anything can be possible if structured correctly. And whether it's hiring an employee, whether it's buying a property, whether it's, whatever it is, buying your house. I mean, I don't know, what other things in life do you go through?
You can negotiate anything.
But it's all about the structuring, right?
Yeah.
And for structuring, it's about having real value, right? We got this office space. One we should have actually asked for a sink added initially before we expanded. On the expansion, we added a sink. But really, we went 4 months without a sink in the office. That's something we could have easily asked for at the time had we thought about it, but we didn't. Now
we did negotiate some stuff.
We negotiated a lot of things, but that was one that's low risk, low everything to them, and it's value for us. Yeah. Now we would not have been able to ask for, well, can we get the rest of the floor for free? Yeah. Right? Like, that's never going to happen, right?
It has to be reasonable, right? I think that's where sometimes people stretch, right?
But if I wanted to sign a 20-year lease, and I said if I'd grow into the rest of the floor, after 2-3 years, maybe you can negotiate that, right? So
who knows? We could have maybe gotten a bathroom.
Yeah.
Instead of having to walk down the hall. But, you get it, right? Everything is negotiable, but also at the same time, caveat that statement with don't be annoying and don't overstretch it either, folks, right? At the end of the day, people ultimately just want to get a deal done. They don't want to get caught up in negotiating the heck out of everything, right? And some people do that. Trust me, we see it all the time. Yeah. So, there is a line that you don't want to cross. So, just understand that. But I think, that's what we got for today. I mean, obviously, what else am I forgetting,
so
man?
Let's see. So Monday, do this every Monday, 3:30 Central. Today we're talking about negotiating tips and basically going through some of the comments. Right? Iggy says, what's up? What's up?
What's up, buddy?
Savion says, should you hire the securities attorney once you submit the LOI or once you have the contract accepted by the sellers?
No, you don't want to. You got to do it prior to the contract, man, because ultimately, it just depends. Well, so our SEC attorney does the contract negotiations too,
this
right?
is kind of written. I think maybe it's he said contract. Maybe he missaid something. You should get the security attorney involved after you have an accepted LOI. That's the point in time.
Well, but
right, the LOI you should write it yourself-ish. Right, again, it's non-binding. Right, we can give you templates. But now, once you have an accepted LOI and you're negotiating the PSA, that is when you need that attorney. And sorry, let's rewind. That's whenever you need an attorney.
An attorney, yeah. That's
not the securities attorney. Now, let's be more specific, too. Yeah, so there's a couple of things
So there is attorneys out there that, they're just SEC attorneys. All they do is the PPM, folks, right? And they're going to do that security side of it. And then there's some that do the transaction, and there's a couple out there, and we can give you recommendations, that do both. Right? And so in my mind, I'm getting my attorney who does both involved after we have an accepted LOI.
But you need a contracts attorney, whether it's the same one or different.
Yeah.
Comes in after LOI but before an executed PSA. Yep. because you need that. The PSA has a lot of nuances that you want to make sure
That's where
are
they
covered.
protect you.
And really, not just a contract attorney, you want a real estate contract attorney that knows
get-
about all the pitfalls and all the
Don't get
things
your cousins,
that,
brothers, sister, whatever. You know, I mean, like, you know, you need to have somebody that's actually educated in this stuff because there is nuances, right? You know, especially if it's somebody that's just maybe not familiar, not only with real estate contracts, but maybe not real estate contracts in a certain part of the country too, right? There is some nuances that happen between the different states.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
you know, I mean, that would probably be the answer to that question, right?
Ronnie says, "What's up, guys? What's up,
What's
Ronnie?"
up, buddy?
Then he says, "I've yet to see Ferris in the navy blue distress polo. What's the deal?"
He never wears it, dude.
I didn't even get one.
Yes,
did
I gave you one, and I gave you the long,
Is this
the
the one
long
where
sleeve
where you tricked me and you gave me the bigger one?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's it.
It's because there was a
I'm
large and there was an XL, all right? You know,
There was
I tossed them up.
Oh,
and whichever
tossed
one,
them up.
whatever one landed on your seat, you know, that was what you were going with.
There was two. You screwed me on both.
All right, well then I was
Now
juggling,
I-
I was juggling
now
a
it's
lot
a-
of shirts. All right? Just run it through the wash.
No, I need to go wear it.
not-
To be, I just haven't taken it home.
It's still here?
Yeah, it is actually
Dude,
sitting on
I
the
got
desk.
that like 3 months ago.
Gotcha. So if someone says, "Gotcha," please any recommendations would be fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you know, just the name of the big ones, right? Dugan Kelly can do both, right?
Yep.
We've used him.
Merrill
Callister,
Callister.
Merrick
Yep.
Callister, we've used them as well. And Gene Trowbridge, you've used them as well. And then there's
I don't think
also,
Gene does contracts though.
True,
I
contract-
think
Gene only
just
does
SEC
SEC.
stuff and funds. You know.
And then
Melvin?
Melvin as well. You know,
Yeah.
he's a good guy based here in Houston. Then who? I'm blanking. West Coast.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I just blanked out.
Mauricio.
Thank you. And Mauricio.
Yeah.
Those are the big ones that kind of most people.
Yeah,
think
it's a pretty niche. The SEC
Yeah.
law is fairly niche, you know, and there's only 4 or 5 folks that do it in our circles.
Yeah.
You know, but that's who we've used. We've used them all. They're all good. You know, and their fees are all about the same too. So, you know, but don't ever base your taking legal advice.
Yeah, don't
based
take.
on
It's
how,
not a
how
good. You
cheap
don't want to
can
go to
get
the
them.
cheap. You want to, and don't negotiate your attorney to do it cheaper either. Keep the negotiations to the other stuff.
You know, because sometimes they're going to give you bad advice, right? So, no questions, man. I'm surprised. this
Sobion
one-
says, "Had Dugan Kelly and Gene on my podcast. We'll definitely reach out to them. Both great guys."
They are good guys. They are good guys.
Let's see. Trevor says, "Thanks for sharing. You're welcome."
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Mondays, we do this every Monday, 3:30 Central. If anybody has any comments, questions, go ahead and leave them. We spent about 20 minutes on presentations. This week we talked about negotiating tips for multifamily real estate. And, you know, basically we'll spend the last 10 minutes open Q&A. So if you have questions, doesn't have to be about what we talked about. Feel free to ask about anything you want to know.
I wanted to go back to something that we had talked about probably on an earlier show, right? You know, the negotiation can become a lot easier if you have the broker as a real relationship. I think a lot of people will not really develop those friendships and those relationships with the brokers, right? And so whenever you're putting in 2 similar offers, right? This guy or gal is friends with the broker. This person, the guy he barely knows. Who do you think the broker is probably going to try to position, right? Now they ultimately don't make the pick, right? But they have they can heavily influence the decision, right? Because they're going to say, hey, these guys are good guys. I know that they've closed 3 transactions with me. I know they can get it across the finish line, right? Versus, and then we also have this other offer, right? So my point is if you already have developed that relationship ahead of time, that's going to make the negotiation of maybe an LOI or PSA or even just winning the deal a lot easier too, right? You know, and a lot of people, they don't realize that. They just kind of look at it as a very transactional, like, you know, they'll call the broker, you know, okay, what's the whisper? You know, then it's almost like they want to hang up on the guy, right? You know, these are people too. Right? You know, I mean, develop those friendships, right? Because they'll give you the inside track on good deals too, and it makes it less of a tough negotiation when they say, "Hey, this guy, you pay him his price, you could set your terms, right, or whatever it might be, right?" So, we got our toolkit, man.
Tell us about the toolkit, Ben.
Toolkit is jam-packed with some good stuff, right? You got checklists, you got our webinar replays, you got a podcast that we've been on, a ton of knowledge and a ton of just, you know, educational stuff. We're not selling anything, nothing there. Disruptequity.com/toolkit. So check it out. You know, we're just trying to kind of compile.
Disruptequity.com/toolkit.
Yeah, man, that's what I just said.
I'm repeating it in a much more eloquent voice.
Ouch.
Let's continue on.
Ouch. So no, we're just bundling all of the stuff that we've had, folks, and trying to put it into one little thing. And so that's it's been pretty popular. So we're going to continue to put that out in the market, right? But what do we got coming up, man?
We got what coming up, Ben?
What?
Talking about a conference.
Oh,
we
my
are
gosh.
1 month away, almost to the T. So 1 month and 2 days away. Multifamily Investor Network Conference.
We got one VIP ticket left. Oh my gosh, who's gonna buy it?
We do have one more VIP ticket left. You're right. So it's definitely, we've got a lot of interest. We're excited. 1 month away, and
we got the bigger room.
We got the big room.
Big room.
And pretty much the schedule is wrapped up as well. We have Robert Helms coming on as well from the real estate guys. So
we like Robert.
Excited to announce
Russell.
that. We also have Mark Kinney. We have, a lot of different speakers.
We got a ton of panelists.
Definitely panelists. The whole shebang. So definitely check it out. The idea is really getting one environment people can learn and network about multifamily investing.
Yeah, we're gonna have the syndicators. We got the brokers. We're gonna have women in real estate panel. We're gonna have alternative investments panel, which was really popular last time. So this is, yes, we're the multifamily guys, and yes, it's Multifamily Investor Network. But we're gonna have some of our friends that also do other stuff, right? Mobile home parks or self-storage. So come and listen to those guys and gals.
So if you're interested, it's here in Houston, February 27th. It's a one-day Saturday event, right?
Getting shot out of a cannon.
www.mfinvestornetwork.com. Check it out and use the coupon code DISRUPT for a big discount. So
there you go.
Check it out. We're excited. It is definitely about this getting close to selling out, I'd say. So one VIP ticket left, and there's a few more of the regular. So definitely check it out. Yeah,
it's going to be COVID compliant,
and
folks.
You can come hang out with me and Ben, all right? Anybody that comes, we'll let you hang out with Ben.
Of course.
We'll let you bring a coffee to Ben,
I do enjoy coffees. There is one. There's actually a Starbucks on site, which we're pretty happy about, and that's the reason why
I'm disappointed, though. The biggest problem about them moving us to a bigger room is that we're no longer on the same floor as Starbucks, right? We used to be the same floor as Starbucks, and now you got to know that
it's still in the same building. We will be all right. But no, we're excited, and we're also going to have a lot of the same vendors that we use are going to be sponsoring our event, folks.
Yeah. So Dugan Kelly will be there. Gene Trowbridge will be there.
Have all your questions. These guys and gals are going to be available to answer them, right? We're also going to have some breakouts.
Yeah.
So you can kind of chart your own path when we do the breakouts. There's going to be a lot of good information there. So you got good speakers, great panelists, and then some awesome breakouts that you can learn a ton of stuff, right? You're not going to learn the whole entire business in one day. Who can actually, say that that's actually possible? But we're at least going to set you on the right direction, right?
Absolutely.
I think that's all I got. What else
call
we
it a
got?
wrap. So if anyone has any more comments, questions, go ahead and ask it. Otherwise, we're going to wrap.
What's coming up next week?
Next week, we're talking about, I don't know, Ben. What are we talking about?
Come on, man.
Basically, we wanted to do a little survey and understand what things people want to talk about.
We want this to be interactive.
Absolutely.
Right?
So we wanted to do a little bit of a poll, right? So go to facebook.com/disruptequity, and over there, you can basically go figure out there's two options of what to talk about.
You're not selling this very
I know.
It
just caught me off guard. All right, I walked into the office, walked down stage.
All right, so we got two options because we want people. We can talk about this stuff all day long, folks, but we want to know what's important to you. So, right, we got option one: the biggest mistakes new real estate investors make. Right, and trust me, we've probably made them all. Or option number two: buying your own deal versus real estate syndications. Right, and I know a lot of people starting off, they either go down one or the other path. Right, and we'll kind of go through the pros and cons there. So which one do you want? Option one or option two? Let us know. We want to hear from you.
Yeah. So go to the Disrupt Equity. Go to the Disrupt Equity Facebook page, and you can check it out there, and we can kind of run through that. And based on the results, we will present on that next week.
And then we'll probably go over the other option
sometime in the next 6 months.
But whoever wins, we'll get it next week. So please go ahead and vote. We wanted this to be interactive, like I said, folks. We want to hear from you guys and what you want to hear from us. So
absolutely.
Anyway, I think that's a wrap, man.
Let's call it a wrap. Thank you guys very much. We'll see you guys next Monday at 3:30.